I wonder if I made the story confusing. Someone validate me and tell me it's not. I'm sorry for the delay and if there's a lot of plot holes. I hope you guys enjoy it. I don't own anything but the plot. Atsumu, go back to our room and wait for me there. A moment earlier, Atsumu had noticed the strange way Sakusa stared into empty space, wide-eyed, even though there's nothing there. Now, Sakusa was facing him directly. His voice was sharp, commanding, his dark eyes hollow, yet the hand brushing Atsumu's cheek, over the faint streaks of dried tears that Atsumu had shed earlier, was unbearably gentle. And don't get any funny ideas of going anywhere else. I'm not. Where are ya going? Since their marriage, Sakusa had never once left Atsumu alone, so now that he was asking Atsumu to go felt wrong. Was Sakusa actually going somewhere? Or maybe the better question was, what was Sakusa planning to do? I'll follow you right after. There was no room for negotiation in Sakusa's tone, and even if Atsumu wanted to argue otherwise, the guilt he felt from Sakusa's earlier words still weighed too heavily. Okay, it was all Atsumu could manage as he rose from the bench and makes his way to their room, deep in thought. What Sakusa had said earlier, about Atsumu's plan to win Sakusa over and leaving right after, struck every raw nerve, dragging out all the guilt Atsumu had been burying. Sakusa had already long figured Atsumu out. He had known all along. And yet, he let Atsumu do it anyway. Back in their room, he drifted to the balcony, letting the cold air steady his thoughts. Under his breath, he whispers, "Hey, what's Omi's affection level now?" A system window pops into view.
Sakusa's affection level, 92%.
The last time, it had been at 87%, but after seeing it fluctuate up and down from all the events earlier, it had finally settled at 92%. Ya said once I reached the 100% you'd send me back.
That is correct.
Do I have the option to stay? There was a beat of silence before the system flickers a new message.
Player Mia Atsumu, do you not want to return?
For a fleeting moment, Atsumu thought of his old dream, going pro, standing under the lights at nationals, spending weekends with Osamu, laughing with friends and family again. But the image dissolved the instant he imagined Sakusa left behind, alone. His choice had already become clear. I do, but I'm staying. Whenever Omi is, I'll follow.
Instead of the capture target being captured, it seems to me that you're the one who's been captured instead.
Atsumu chuckled softly, a smile tugging at his lips. Funnily enough, that might just be the case. Somewhere along the way, Sakusa was the one who won him over instead. Even if this is just a game, even if everything here is all fake, unless one of us dies or this whole thing resets, I'll stay with Omi. The system lingers for a beat again before displaying a new message.
This place is real, even the capture target, and this game has no resets.
Real? So everything that happened, the people, Sakusa, they're not just part of a simulation? This isn't just a game? Before Atsumu can process the weight of it all, a familiar, low voice cuts through his thoughts. Atsumu. Atsumu turns around to find Sakusa standing behind him. There was a look on Sakusa's face that Atsumu couldn't quite identify, but it looked complicated. It's cold tonight. Let's go back inside. Without waiting for a response, Sakusa gently takes Atsumu by the wrist and leads him back into the room. The touch is gentle, almost hesitant, and once they're inside, he lets go. Go and take a warm bath. Sakusa must have felt the cold in Atsumu's skin. Wordless, Atsumu only nods and heads to the washroom. The tension between them was heavy, weighted with unspoken things. Atsumu couldn't shake the guilt pressing on him. The echo of Sakusa's earlier words and hurt in his voice, it replays over and over in Atsumu's mind. Sinking into the hot bath, his mind wandered back to Sakusa's expression, so raw, so wounded, and the bitter, humorless laugh that had followed. Atsumu's heart clenches, and before he realized it, he slapped both cheeks with his hands, trying to snap himself out of the spiral. Atsumu couldn't let things go on like this. The way he is now, Sakusa would keep doubting him. He has to make things right. After bathing, Atsumu dressed and returned to their room waiting for Sakusa's turn to be finished. Lying on his side of the bed, Atsumu waited quietly until he heard the rustle of sheets. Seeing Sakusa sliding under the covers on his side, without hesitation, Atsumu pushes himself up, urgency sharpening his voice. Can we talk? Sakusa stills. For a moment, he parts his lips as if to answer but quickly shuts them again. Instead, his palm presses against Atsumu's chest, pushing him gently back onto the bed. Sleep. We'll talk tomorrow. Sakusa withdraws his hand, only to loop his arm around Atsumu's waist, pulling him flush against his side as he lays down beside him. But Atsumu shifts, leaning into him, partially draping himself over Sakusa. This can't wait. Sakusa replies by shutting his eyes and retreating into silence. At this rate, they'd only fall into the same loop again, with Sakusa second-guessing his intentions and Atsumu swallowing his guilt. Atsumu doesn't want Sakusa to think that he was just using him. Whatever Atsumu is able to tell Sakusa, he'll say it now. Except Sakusa seemed hell-bent on ignoring Atsumu right now. So Atsumu leans in, pressing a kiss against his cheek, his voice sweet and coaxing. "Let's talk, Omi." Sakusa doesn't budge and Atsumu feels like an idiot for thinking acting coy would let Sakusa cave. Then a system message appeared.
"It's working."
Atsumu huffs out a fond laugh. Really, this guy is a piece of work. Atsumu presses a few more kisses over Sakusa's face, deliberately skipping his lips just to be a menace.
Sakusa's affection level, 92% to 93%.
Sakusa's eye snaps open with a frown, and in one swift movement, he rolled them over, pinning Atsumu beneath him. "If you want to kiss me, do it properly." Atsumu complies. He leans up, capturing Sakusa's lips, and felt Sakusa's hand slide to the nape of his neck, pulling him closer as the kiss deepened. They shared a few more kisses until Atsumu suddenly pulled back, swerving his head aside just as Sakusa leaned in again, a playful smile tugging at his lips. "No more, not until we talk first." Sakusa glares down at him, brows furrowed, caught between annoyance and reluctant affection. The contrast only made Atsumu grin even wider. "Cute." Atsumu presses one last kiss to the crease between Sakusa's brows. Immediately, Sakusa's hand tightened on his waist, forcing a startled yelp out of Atsumu. "Tease me again and you'll regret it."
Sakusa's affection level, 93% to 95%.
Okay, no more teasing. Let's talk, Omi." For a long moment, Sakusa said nothing. His hands stayed firmly in place, his gaze fixed on Atsumu's as though searching for something. "What is it? Earlier, ya told me to head up first. What were ya doing?" The question hung between them, and Atsumu immediately thought back to Sakusa's headaches, to that night when he'd caught Sakusa crying in his sleep over his cousin, and to the look on his face earlier when he returned to their room. That same complicated expression was on Sakusa now, and Atsumu's chest tightened. Horizontal ellipsis. "Okay, I won't ask." If talking about it was unpleasant then, Atsumu wasn't going to force it. The last thing he wanted was to make Sakusa more uncomfortable. He's already stressed Sakusa enough. "We don't have to talk about ya, if ya don't want to, but I want to talk about us." Another pause stretched, heavier this time. At Atsumu's words, something flickers in Sakusa's expression, nervousness, hesitation, like he was bracing himself for whatever was coming. Atsumu lifts a hand, gently caressing his face, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "Omi, are ya scared I'm gonna leave?" Well, this was something both Sakusa and Atsumu both knew but had never properly talked about. So hearing Atsumu voice it out loud struck hard in Sakusa. His lips parted, but no sound came. Horizontal ellipsis. "Omi, if ya have any doubts, tell me. I don't wanna leave ya feelin' anxious. I want to come clean with ya." And if Sakusa couldn't talk first, then Atsumu would. Atsumu will strip himself bare, lay down everything he'd been keeping inside, everything except the condition that he's not allowed to say. But the rest? Sakusa deserved to know and to be freed of any lingering doubts. "Ya know, that time I said I fell in love with ya at first sight? I lied, I know, and at the start, I only flirted with ya to make ya like me, but now, I'm genuinely doing it 'cause I really love ya. I know, you're an open book." Sakusa's tone was steady, almost tender, and even though Atsumu realized how obvious he'd been all this time, he didn't feel embarrassed. "Ya know I love ya." Atsumu's voice dropped quieter, softer in its sincerity. "So, why don't ya believe me when I say that I'll stay with ya?" Sakusa's fingers dug into Atsumu's sides, his grip almost bruising. His dark eyes seemed to grow even heavier, clouded with something raw and unguarded. "You'll hesitate, because you've got so much waiting for you in your world. People you miss, things you still have." The sting of Sakusa's grip was nothing compared to the ache in Atsumu's chest at hearing him so stripped bare. His voice cracked with quiet desperation. "But me? I only have you." Then, images flashed unbidden in Atsumu's mind. His dream of playing professional volleyball, standing under the lights at nationals, weekends helping Osamu at the onigiri shop, facing off against the Raijins and teasing soon afterward, visiting his parents, Kita, Aaron, and everyone else. A life both simple and full of doing what he loves with the people he loves. "I won't lie that I'll miss playing volleyball, or that I'll miss Samu along with my friends and family, but somewhere along the way, after falling for Sakusa, every picture Atsumu had of his future had started to shift where each one had Sakusa in it. Atsumu misses volleyball, he misses Osamu, he misses his friends and family, but with just one look at Sakusa, Atsumu can't imagine imagine being anywhere else, but I don't want to miss yet. To miss someone means to feel their absence, and Atsumu couldn't bear the thought of Sakusa being absent. Not for a day, not for a night, not for even a moment. It was ridiculous, really. It had only been days since they met, but the idea of waking up and finding Sakusa gone already felt unbearable. Atsumu knows without Sakusa he'd never sleep soundly again. You're the first person I want to see when I wake up, and the last one I want to see before I fall asleep. Atsumu could feel himself rambling now, but he didn't care. His mouth might be running, but his heart was the one speaking. That's why I mean it when I said that I want to stay here with ya. You're good to me, you're Karen, handsome, good in bed, terrifying sometimes but also stupidly cute. Ya get jealous over the littlest things, and ya can be a prick, but everything about ya, I like them all. There's nothing that isn't good about ya. Sakusa's hands went slack at Atsumu's sides, though he didn't let go completely. He just stares at Atsumu, quiet and unreadable, while Atsumu kept going. I've never liked anyone before, Omi. You're the first, and you're gonna be the last. I want to spend the rest of my days teasing and irritating ya so much you'll wish you could toss me out. But ya won't be able to. Atsumu uses a finger to tap Sakusa's forehead. That's why wherever ya are, that's where I want to be.
Sakusa's affection level, 95% to 99%.
Sakusa still wore the same passive face, but Atsumu knew better. Sakusa's eyes had softened in a way that revealed everything he was trying not to say, and the flush at the tips of his ears gave him away completely. You really only know how to sweet talk. Atsumu laughs. I'm telling ya the truth though. If ya don't believe me, ya can fuck me so hard so I won't even be able to walk, let alone run away. Sakusa leans his forehead against Atsumu's, and this time, he let the smile show. Dimples carved into his cheek, deepening in a way that made Atsumu's heart lurch. I can arrange that. But when Sakusa's voice dropped lower, it was tender, almost fragile. You're staying, right? I am. No matter what? No matter what. Sakusa exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath all this time. The tension he carried bled out with that single sound, and when his arms tightened around Atsumu again, it wasn't desperate, but grounding. Don't forget your promise, Atsumu. Atsumu opens his mouth to reply, but before he could, Sakusa pulls away. The sudden loss of warmth startles Atsumu. Omi, what's wrong? Sakusa was already moving, slipping off the bed with urgency. I have a bad feeling. Sakusa crosses the room in quick strides and pulled back the curtain. Atsumu frowns, confused, until he saw Sakusa's jaw clench. Outside, dark shapes moved along the perimeter, silent, shifting, and unmistakably human. Sakusa's tone drops, edged with disdain. These fools never learn. Atsumu blinks, still lost as he watched Sakusa throw on his clothes, reaching for his sword which was propped against the wall. Omi, what's wrong? Sakusa didn't answer right away. Fully dressed now, he strode back to Atsumu, wrapping him in a tight embrace before whispering against his ear. Atsumu, don't move and stay here. Why? Promise me. The sharpness in Sakusa's voice made Atsumu flinch, his heart thudding, before he forced the words out. I promise. Sakusa lingers for a beat, then let him go. Without another word, he slipped out the door and shut it firmly behind him. Atsumu sat frozen on the bed, the echo of Sakusa's urgency still ringing in his ears. What's happening? Knowing Atsumu was asking for the system, it chimes in.
There are intruders. The capture target has gone to kill them.
Seeing the message, Atsumu's stomach dropped. Memories of the Royal Guard ambush, of Sakusa's story about Komori, had made him worry. Omi, will he be okay?
There is another intruder the capture target is not aware of. However, he should be fine.
Hearing there was another unknown threat, Atsumu scrambles out from the bed, searching for a weapon. All he could find was the empty sheath from Sakusa's sword.
What are you doing? The capture target asked you to stay.
Atsumu knows, but he couldn't sit still. If anything happened to Sakusa, he'd never forgive himself. Omi doesn't know about the other intruder, does he? I have to let him know. Who's the other intruder?
It's a butler wearing a red tie.
Got it.
Are you really going?
I am.
Unlike the capture target, if you die here, you'll also die back in your world.
That phrasing sounded odd with Atsumu. What do you mean unlike the capture target? He wanted to ask more, but there was no time to dwell on it. Sakusa's safety came first. I'm not trying to die. You're there to help me, aren't ya? Just tell me where the butler is so I can warn Omi.
Horizontal ellipsis. Go down one floor. The capture target has already dealt with the intruders, but the butler is closing in. He's about 1 kilometer away and approaching quickly.
Atsumu bolts from the room, the empty sheath clutched tightly in his grip. His legs carried him down the endless corridors with ease. After all, he was an athlete. In no time, he descended the stairs and reached the next floor. The sight before him made his stomach twist. Sakusa stood in the center of carnage, his sword dripping red, bodies sprawled around him in grotesque heaps. The metallic stench of blood hung thick in the air. Omi, Sakusa's head whips around at the sound of Atsumu's voice. His dark eyes widened, panic flashing before hardening into anger. Atsumu, you shouldn't be here. Get out. Omi, listen, there's another one. The butler wearing a red tie, he's an intruder too. What? Sakusa freezes for a split second, his grip on the sword tightening, and then Atsumu saw him. At the far end of the hall stood a man dressed neatly in black, his red tie almost glowing in contrast. His gaze was sharp, his smile cruel. How did you know? Well, no matter, I'll just kill you both. Without warning, the butler lunged forward with frightening speed, blade gleaming under the light. Atsumu's body moved before he could think. He rushed in front of Sakusa, sheath raised in a clumsy attempt to block. The butler's blade crashed against the flimsy sheath in Atsumu's hands, the impact sending a sharp tremor through his arms. His grip wavered, his knees threatening to buckle under the sheer force. Well, shit. If Atsumu weren't an athlete, he knew he wouldn't be able to hold out and that he'd already be dead. Sakusa's fury ignited at the sight of Atsumu shielding him. Atsumu, seeing the blonde strain under the pressure, Sakusa surged forward. In one clean sweep, he knocked the butler's blade from his grasp, steel clattering across the blood-slicked floor. The intruder barely had time to register what happened when Sakusa's follow-through was merciless, his sword cutting clean through the man's neck. A dull thud echoed as the body crumpled, the head rolling to a stop against the wall. The silence that followed was suffocating. Sakusa stood over the corpse, chest rising and falling with sharp, ragged breaths. Blood dripped steadily from the edge of his blade. Then, without sheathing it, he turns, his dark eyes snapping to Atsumu. Sakusa crosses the distance in 2 long strides, grasping Atsumu's shoulder so hard it nearly hurt. Why did you come here? You promised me that you'd stay put. Sakusa's voice cracked with something harsher than anger. It was fear. You could have been killed. Do you understand that? If you hadn't blocked that. Atsumu could feel the faint tremors in Sakusa's grip, the subtle shake running through his shoulders, with blood staining his clothes and a blade still glinting at his side. Sakusa, who should have seemed terrifying, seemed the most terrified instead. Sakusa presses his head against Atsumu's chest, as if needing to hear the steady beat of his heart for proof. The moment he did, his breathing eased, and the sword slipped from his hand, clattering uselessly to the ground. You're driving me insane. His voice cracked as he whispers, softer, fragile. Atsumu, hearing Sakusa's voice so weak, so uncertain, made Atsumu's chest ache. I'm here. Why did you come here? Ya said not to leave ya alone. So why are ya the one leaving me behind? Horizontal ellipsis. Sakusa shot him a look, and Atsumu immediately realized, yeah, that probably wasn't the smartest thing to say right now, but it was too late to take it back. Instead, he caught Sakusa's trembling hands on his shoulders and laced their fingers together, grounding them both. I'm sorry for making you worry, Omi. I came because I was worried about ya. I couldn't help it. Atsumu tightens his hold, sincerity spilling from his voice. But I was wrong. I'm sorry for breaking my promise. I didn't mean to. Under normal circumstances, Sakusa wouldn't let this slide, but Atsumu always had this uncanny way of softening his edges, and with just a few words, he already managed to coax Sakusa. No matter how hard Sakusa tried, he could never stay angry at Atsumu for long. I really can't win against you. Just as the words left Sakusa's lips, a soft blue glow materialized in front of Atsumu's eyes, the familiar system text hang across the air.
Sakusa's affection level, 99% to 100%. Congratulations Mia Atsumu, you have completed your quest.
The screen then flickered, shifting into a new message with 2 buttons.
Do you want to return, stay, or leave?
Atsumu was initially startled at the sudden quest completion notification, but his heart was steady. He already knew what choice to make. Without hesitation, he slipped one hand free from Sakusa's and reached toward the glowing, stay, option. Your condition, it's complete? Sakusa's words make Atsumu freeze mid-motion, his head snapping toward Sakusa, eyes wide. How did ya know? Sakusa didn't answer. Instead, his hand shot out, clamping tightly around the wrist Atsumu had just freed. His grip was almost desperate, and Atsumu could see the fear flickering in his eyes, feel the way his fingers trembled. Using the other hand that was still intertwined with Sakusa's, Atsumu gave a gentle squeeze, trying to reassure him. Don't worry, Omi, I'm not leaving. But Sakusa's jaw was clenched so tightly Atsumu could see the veins straining along his neck, muscles taut with barely restrained tension. Sakusa's whole body shook, not with exhaustion, but with a mix of fury and dread. Leave? What? Weren't you the one so eager to go back? Then hurry up and leave already. Sakusa's words didn't match with his actions. Sakusa's grip on Atsumu's wrist was so tight it bordered on painful, bruises already threatening to bloom. Even the hand still intertwined with his felt as if it were being crushed in Sakusa's desperate hold. Atsumu winced from the pain, but his voice stayed steady. I don't understand. Omi, I thought ya wanted me to stay. Sakusa didn't respond, clenching his jaw harder, his teeth grinding audibly in the tense silence. Omi, you're not making any sense. Tell me what's wrong. Atsumu frowns, his brows knitting tighter, yet his voice remained soft, laced with patience as he tried to understand Sakusa. I love ya, Omi. I'm not leaving. Well, I don't. What? I don't love you. The words cut into Atsumu like a knife, leaving his heart exposed and bleeding. Atsumu's face twisted in confusion and pain, his eyes burning as he fought back the sting of tears born purely from hurt. But it was obvious that Sakusa was lying. Every word sounded forced, his voice tight, each syllable dragged out as though speaking them caused him pain. And yet, Sakusa's grip on Atsumu was so tight it felt like he was afraid to ever let go. Atsumu couldn't make sense of why Sakusa was telling him to leave while holding him down as if he'd vanish the moment he loosened his grasp. Even though confusion clouded Atsumu's mind, Atsumu remembered the promise Sakusa had made him keep to stay. The thought of not being able to see Sakusa again only solidified Atsumu's resolve. Though his chest ached from Sakusa's words, Atsumu managed a strained, painful smile. Even if ya want me to leave Omi, I'm not leaving. With that, Atsumu pressed the stay button, but the moment he did, a glowing circle flared beneath him, etched with the same strange symbols that had appeared the day he was first dragged into this world. Confusion washed over him as his outline began to fade, his body slowly turning translucent. What the hell? I pressed stay, liar. Sakusa's finger slipped through empty air as Atsumu's form dissolved before his eyes. His gaze went bloodshot, face twisted with fury and heartbreak, his voice ragged as it tore from his throat. You fucking liar, Omi, I. Atsumu reaches out desperately, trying to cling to him, but it passed through air as his own body began to fade, the light around him pulling him in. When his vision cleared, he found himself in a stark white void. Floating before him was the familiar system interface.
Mia Atsumu, you have completed your mission. As promised, you will be returned back to your world.
Sakusa's anguished voice still echoed in his mind, sharp and raw, and Atsumu felt a surge of frustration. Clenching his fists, he shouted at the empty void. Wait, I said that I'd stay. I clearly pressed the stay button back then. Bring me back.
I didn't say staying was an option.
But when I asked ya said. Atsumu thought about it and recalled that when he asked if he had the option to stay, the system had replied his question with another question.
Even if you wanted to stay, Mia Atsumu, you are not eligible to remain in this world.
What do you mean, not eligible?
This world is only for those from your world who have reincarnated after death or are unconscious. You, Mia Atsumu, do not meet these conditions. Your time here was always meant to be temporary.
Atsumu's brows furrowed deeper, confusion and frustration boiling over. The fuck? Then why did ya bring me here in the first place?
You were called here by force because of this world's Komori Motoya's wish, for someone to stay with Sakusa Kiyumi. No matter what, you have completed your mission and fulfilled the wish.
I don't care about the mission or the wish. Bring me back to where Omi is.
Now, don't get your panties in a twist.
A vein throbbed visibly on Atsumu's forehead. Atsumu almost forgot just how irritating this system actually is.
You can find Sakusa Kiyumi when you return to your world.
What? Atsumu's frown softened slightly as the words sank in. Omi, he's in my world too?
Sakusa Kiyumi was originally from your world anyway. His and Komori Motoya's consciousness drifted here and lived their lives here due to an accident.
Accident? What accident? More confusion twisted in Atsumu's mind, but the system didn't elaborate. Instead, it continued.
For the unconscious, when they die in this world they will regain back consciousness in your world. However, they will not remember anything and all memories will be lost.
Omi has to die before he wakes up? How long until he wakes up?
No. Although Sakusa Kiyumi has not died, he will wake up soon.
What? You're not making any sense.
We made a deal.
Deal? What deal? A flood of questions pressed at Atsumu's mind, but above all, the realization hit him. Sakusa in his world was unconscious, and when he wakes, he wouldn't remember anything from this world. So, when Omi wakes up, he'll lose all his memories here.
Only temporarily.
Atsumu wanted to press for more, but his body was already fading. He could feel himself being pulled back, and it was only a matter of time before he returned to his own world. So this isn't a game, right? It's a question he's already asked before, but he asks it again, out of a quiet need for reassurance. He just wants to be sure that everything that's happened wasn't just his imagination, and that they were all real.
It's a game because I made it one. I've been into auto games recently, and I wanted to try out the concept when I brought you here, but everything, the world, the people, it's all real.
Atsumu couldn't care less about what the system was nerding about, but at least he knows everything was real between them. The system's rambling had lasted a full 3 minutes, leaving Atsumu's body halfway faint, his time running out. With what little time he had left, he asked what might be his last question. Out of everyone, why did ya choose me?
For Sakusa Kiyumi, it had to be you.
That single answer eased all the questions and restlessness in Atsumu's mind. The frustration he had felt when the system suddenly yanked him back was gone, replaced by a quiet sense of gratitude. Ya know, I wanted to punch ya a lot of times, but I'm glad ya pulled me into this world.
You don't hate me?
The system seemed surprised, as if it had expected Atsumu to be bitter or angry about being returned. You've helped me a lot and ya even let me meet the love of my life. How can I hate ya? Plus, now I can be with Omi in my world while still playin' volleyball and bein' with everyone else.
You're kinda annoying, but I did enjoy watching and talking with you.
So, who exactly are ya?
I'm this world's deity.
Hell, did Atsumu just tell a god that he wanted to punch him?
Player Mia Atsumu, you have completed my version of the Heikyu Yandere dating sim. The additional rewards for completing this game are, your memories of this world will be retained a Yandere lover.
What? Sakusa in his world is a Yandere too. The system, as if reading his mind, gave one last final message before Atsumu's body faded completely.
Obviously, they're the same person.
When Atsumu opens his eyes, he finds himself in a familiar bedroom. The usual clutter lay scattered around him, volleyball gear, posters, and all the little things that made the space unmistakably his. It's his bedroom. He's really back. He climbed down from the upper bunk and peered under the lower bed, but Osamu was nowhere to be seen. Where did Osamu go? As Atsumu stepped toward the door, it slowly creaked open on its own. Atsumu froze when the door swung back, revealing a face almost identical to his own, except for the dyed gray hair. It was Osamu. Osamu rushed forward, wrapping Atsumu in a tight hug, his voice trembling with genuine worry, far removed from their usual bickering. Holy shit, Atsumu, is it actually ya? Is it really ya? Atsumu felt a rush of warmth at seeing his brother's ugly mug and hugs him back just as tightly. It's me, Samu. I'm back. Their heartfelt reunion was interrupted when Suna appeared in the doorway, dropping the bag he'd been carrying in shock at Atsumu's sudden reappearance. Oh fuck, you scared me. Atsumu, where the hell have you been? The worry etched on both their faces, the dark circles under their eyes, made Atsumu's chest tighten. They must have been worried sick looking for him. It's a long story. Shit, I don't know where to even begin. Atsumu knew he'd have time to explain everything later, but right now his thoughts were elsewhere. He couldn't shake the image of Sakusa's pained expression just before he disappeared, the way Sakusa had clutched him so tightly, only to see him vanish. Thinking back to when they played volleyball, it struck him that Sakusa's quick reflexes clearly meant he was a volleyball player too. With a Japanese name and features, there was no doubt he was from Japan. He must also be just around Atsumu's age. Atsumu will definitely find Sakusa and keep his promise. Samu, Sunarin, by any chance, do you know anyone named Sakusa Kiyumi? Osamu looked at him cluelessly, but Suna seemed to recognize the name. Isn't he the heir to the Sakusa Industries? He was also one of the top 3 aces in Japan back then. Was? So Sakusa isn't anymore? Why not now? If Sakusa was part of the volleyball industry, how has Atsumu never met him before, let alone heard about him? I recall reading that he and his cousin were in an accident about a year ago. But, why are you asking? At the mention of the accident, desperation crept into Atsumu's voice. Without thinking, Atsumu grabbed Suna by the shoulders, his eyes pleading. Sunarin, tell me everything you know.
Sakusa Kiyumi, do you want to make a deal with me?
For a moment, Sakusa thought his eyes were deceiving him. The glowing screen hovering in front of him felt unreal. He immediately glanced at Atsumu, only to find him staring back in confusion, seemingly unable to see what Sakusa was seeing. Could this be the same strange phenomenon Atsumu had been seeing too?
Before we continue, I suggest you do not let Mia Atsumu overhear our conversation.
Sakusa wasn't one to blindly listen to others, especially not this mysterious phenomenon, but seeing that this has something to do with Atsumu, he decided to hear it out. It takes a few minutes for Sakusa to urge Atsumu to leave. Only when Atsumu was out of sight did Sakusa turn back his attention to the glowing screen which proclaimed itself as the system. What surprised Sakusa most wasn't the glowing screen itself, but how quickly he accepted its presence. For someone who prided himself on being rational, the ease with which he embraced this bizarre occurrence unsettled him. Why should I make a deal with you?
You made a wish so that me Atsumu will never be able to leave you. I can grant it.
A supernatural force granting his wish so easily was too good to be true. Sakusa knew that there had to be a motive behind it. What's the catch?
Mia Atsumu is close to fulfilling the condition required to return to his own world. Once that condition is complete, he'll be given two choices to stay or to leave. If Mia Atsumu chooses to leave, you'll remain here even if you die. However, if Mia Atsumu chooses to stay, you can both be together without worry. I'll send you back with him, allow you to keep your memories, and awaken you from your deep sleep.
Sakusa didn't understand anything the system was saying. None of it made sense. Retain his memories? Awaken from a long sleep? What was this system even talking about? The only thing Sakusa could grasp was that if Atsumu fulfilled his condition and chose to stay, everything would be settled. Sakusa's brows furrowed, his patience clearly already running out. What exactly are you getting at?
Once Mia Atsumu completes his condition, make him leave. Chase him out and tell him that you don't love him. Do whatever it takes to make him want to return.
Ridiculous. The very idea was outrageous. If this system was a person, Sakusa would have sliced off his head by now. Anger surged through Sakusa, and he was about to turn his back, unwilling to hear another word of this nonsense until the system had mentioned Komori.
Do you remember your cousin's wish?
Sakusa remembers. How could he not? That conversation with Komori replays in his dreams over and over, haunting him like a ghost he could never shake off.
Komori Motoya's wish is what brought Mia Atsumu to you. That's why Mia Atsumu must complete the wish to stay by your side no matter what, even if it means you asking him to leave.
The system continues, knowing it had already captured Sakusa's interest.
If you do this, I'll grant your wish so that Mia Atsumu will never be able to leave you. I'll make it so that as long as you call him by his full name, no matter where he is, he'll appear right beside you.
That's right. No matter how many reassurances Atsumu gave him, Sakusa knew he would never truly feel at ease. If, one day, Atsumu wanted to run or hide, there's a possibility Sakusa wouldn't be able to find him. Words could be taken back. Promises could be broken. What Sakusa craved was certainty. Something absolute. Something permanent.
When Mia Atsumu completes his condition, you must drive him away. And if Mia Atsumu chooses to stay despite everything, he'll be bound to you forever.
Bound to him, the very idea settled in Sakusa's chest with a quiet, dangerous kind of certainty. They were married, weren't they? Atsumu had made a vow to stay by Sakusa's side no matter what, so Sakusa was only making it tangible, materializing what Atsumu had already promised. After this, there would be no more uncertainty, no more fear of waking up one day to find Atsumu gone.
Do we have a deal?
Just as long as Sakusa could make Atsumu stay just this once, then Atsumu would be his completely, bound forever to him. Deal. Watching Atsumu vanish before his eyes had already pushed Sakusa to the brink of madness. Sakusa slammed his fist into the wall so hard that blood ran down his knuckles, yet the sting was nothing compared to the hollow ache tearing through his chest. How should Sakusa vent this anger? This crushing helplessness? Atsumu had left him and Sakusa could no longer reach him even if he wanted to. Had Sakusa been too lenient with him? If that's the case, he should have used fear instead. Maybe then, Atsumu would never have even considered leaving. Atsumu wasn't dead at least. Even if he had been cast into another world, Sakusa will find a way to drag him back. Even without the system, he'll just have to bound Atsumu to him by force using any means possible. Just before Sakusa can spiral any deeper, a glowing circle had appeared beneath Sakusa's feet, the same with the one he saw from Atsumu earlier. Then he sees a system window.
Congratulations. You won the deal.
When Sakusa opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was a white ceiling. Slowly sitting up, he glanced down at his hands and realized he was dressed in a plain hospital gown. As he looked around, he recognized that he was in one of the Sakusa family's private hospital rooms. Just then, the door creaks open, and a young nurse had entered. Her eyes widened in shock before she gasped, voice trembling, "Yo, young Master Sakusa has awoken." Within moments, several doctors hurried in, fussing over him, informing him that his family would come as soon as they can. Minutes later, the door burst open again. A brunette in a neon green Itachi jacket rushed inside, breathless, clearly having run all the way from practice. "Kyo, you're really awake." "Matoya." Sakusa's voice was weak, his head still lightheaded. Komori's eyes immediately brimmed with tears as he flung his arms around Sakusa, holding him tightly. "Why did you do that?" At first, Sakusa was confused, but then he remembered the accident. Last year, at a formal family gathering, one of the chandeliers had come crashing down. He had pushed Komori out of the way, shielding him from the impact. Still, the both of them still got hit and had been left in a coma. Awkward in Komori's embrace as they had never been the type to hug, Sakusa hesitantly raised a hand and patted Komori's head, trying to comfort him. "I'm fine, Matoya. I'm glad you're not hurt." But Komori only clung tighter, his tears soaking into the fabric of Sakusa's hospital gown. "Never do that again, you hear me?" Sakusa only hums, his hand moving to pat Komori's head, letting him cry until his breathing finally steadied. When Komori had composed himself, he spoke softly. "Auntie and uncle, they're on a business trip, but they said they'll come see you as soon as they get back." Sakusa scoffs lightly. This is nothing new. His parents had always placed work above him, and his siblings were no better. Sakusa supposes he shouldn't complain. His parents had given him everything he needed to live a comfortable life after all. But still, your siblings, I don't want to hear it. More importantly, Matoya, when did you wake up? The doctors had already told him that both he and Komori had been in a coma. A whole year had passed since the accident, and Komori had apparently woken up before him. 3 months ago. I see. A heavy silence fell over the room until Komori, trying to lighten the mood, began talking about school. He told Sakusa how Itachi was still holding strong, but without him they hadn't been able to win nationals. Coach said earlier that he just arranged a practice match with an old friend in Hyogo. Now that you're awake, I messaged him and the captain. They both said you should come. It'll be a good way for you to ease back into volleyball. At the mention of volleyball, a sudden, sharp throb pierced Sakusa's head. His vision blurred, the weight in his skull nearly unbearable. "Kyo, what's wrong? Do I need to call the doctor?" Komori's voice was tight with worry, but Sakusa only waved him off. And then, he sees it. A fleeting vision. A blond man in strange, medieval clothing, holding a volleyball that looked absurdly out of place in the setting. The man's mouth moved, and Sakusa heard it. A voice laced thick with a Kansai accent, oddly familiar. "Omi, can I set for ya?" The vision shattered, and just like that, the pain vanished. What was that? A dream? A memory? What's this feeling of deja vu? Before Sakusa even realized it, a word slipped past his lips. Atsumu. Sakusa freezes, startled at himself. Komori's head snapped up, equally confused. Their eyes met, both of them wearing the same expression of surprise. "Who's Atsumu?" "I don't know." To be continued.